Hi, I'm J. Herbert Nelson, Director of the Presbyterian Church USA Office of Public Witness. Last week, the House of Representatives passed this budget resolution for fiscal year 2012. The annual budget resolution serves as the roadmap for the rest of the debate over the next year's budget. But this budget resolution has its priorities in the wrong places. The budget resolution, commonly referred to in the media as the Ryan budget, because it was proposed by Budget Chairperson in the House, Paul Ryan, cuts government spending by $5.8 trillion and cuts taxes, that is, reduce the amount the government has to spend by permanently extending the 2001 and 2003 tax cuts that disproportionately benefits the wealthy at a cost of $4.2 trillion. But while these tax cuts benefit the wealthy, millionaires that we sometimes don't come in contact with, the reality is that the most vulnerable persons, the poor, are hit the hardest. $2.9 trillion, almost two-thirds of the spending cuts, will come from programs like Medicaid, food stamps, Pell Grants, and subsidized housing, all that serve low-income people. Mr. Ryan's spending cuts include structural changes to Medicare and Medicaid and food stamps that will fundamentally change how those successful programs have served at-risk population. Likewise, the budget proposes very serious changes to Medicaid, the program that provides health insurance to the very poor, and to SNAP, the program formerly known as food stamps. Both these programs are currently entitlement programs, which means that they are designed to automatically meet the needs of a good or a bad economy. Simply put, when the economy is bad and more people are out of work, these programs automatically increase their enrollment to pick up the slack. Likewise, when the economy is good and more people are doing fine on their own, the roles of these programs shrink to reflect a strong economy where people have jobs and are able to support their families. I'm concerned about this budget, and so is our office and the Presbyterian Church USA. Our policies reflect a need for us to be conscious of those who are suffering on the fringes of life. When we think about taking away Pell Grants and reducing those expenditures for young people who are attempting to go to college and better their lives, and then on the other end, dealing with issues in cuts such as Medicaid and Medicare, we're looking at cutting two populations that are essential for the development of this country. Number one, young people, unable to go to college, cannot advance themselves, cannot find their way through a college education because of the expense. And yet on the other end, individuals who have worked all of their lives, given their lives to the service of corporations, given their lives to the service of our schools and in public health and other areas, who are now looking for a decent retirement, are unable to do so because we find that their medical costs are ratcheted up. When a nation pushes its young people aside and at the same time pushes its seniors to the brink of destruction, the reality is that any nation that does not regard its young, its future, and its seniors, its past, is a nation that has neglected both its future and its past and cannot be a strong nation. This is the situation that we find ourselves in Mr. Ryan's spending cuts that include structural changes in those programs that are needed the most by our young and also by older persons in our society. But let us not forget, Jesus had something to say about that. It was Simon and Anna that Jesus found in the temple. He was given words of wisdom as he began his pursuit to understand what God would have him to do and the ways that he would walk by faith and not by sight. And yet it was Jesus, when the disciples tried to shoo away the children who seemed to annoy them, who said to them, "Suffer the little children and bring them unto me." Jesus' consciousness or both old individuals who could share with him the possibilities of his own future by reflecting on their past was important. And yet, Jesus' understanding of young children who could not be pushed to the side because they needed the wisdom and power that both he and those of wisdom and older individuals could give. It ought to be a model for our faith, but it also ought to be a model for how we appropriate our faith in the midst of this national crisis. Again, we're not suggesting that any budget ought to go without cuts. We are in a dire situation. The middle class, however, should not be crushed, young people should not be pushed to the side, and older individuals should not be forgotten. We believe in these three wars that we are facing right now, in Libya, in Afghanistan, and also in Iraq, that there are places in our military spending that we can cut and still have a strong military, and still have a strong military presence in the places that it is needed. But it is going to take creative minds of Congress, pushed by an electorate that is willing to engage this process, to talk with their congresspersons while they are on vacation right now, to come to Washington and declare that a new day must happen. And more importantly, a praying people who will never give up on what God can do through them when they actively participate in these types of processes. You see, my friends, this is no time to be in a deep sleep. It ought to be a great awakening. It is not time for a stepping down, but a rising up. It is not time for us to live in the shadows as though we have no power. For we can do abundantly more through the presence and the power of God than we could ever do by ourselves. I pray that we will take this season seriously, where we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and come to an understanding that we too can be resurrected in a process that right now needs our participation. Go to www.pcusa.org and type in the Washington office in the search engine. Learn more about our office. Feel free to call us, and feel free to ask us for help in deciphering what you are now facing and what we all are facing together. This nation can rise and help the world rise, but it takes the input of every one of us. God is still on the throne, and that is the good news. I'm J. Herbert Nelson, Director of the Office of Public Witness for the Presbyterian Church, USA. Be blessed and be hopeful in this time of great hope.